Now, before anything else, a few numbers for reference first. The F is the second longest route in the system, at about 27 miles long. After the swap, scheduled midday run times even out to a consistent hour and 37 minutes. Still the longest scheduled trip time, beating out the A to Rockaway by 2 minutes. Note that the A's trip times can vary by up to 5 minutes. As for other benefits from the swap, well, I waited a whole month for the data, and the relevant numbers have all gone down from November to December. More delays, less reliability, and so on. It's definitely too soon to compare the data, but I'm pissed off that I had to wait a month for that. But in summary, the F is an excessively long route that carries an immense amount of people. And you know what? Let me throw one more big number at you. The F's northern terminal, 179th Street, can handle a theoretical 63 trains per hour, the highest in the system. That's more than a train every minute. On the topic of F train terminals, Coney Island f***ing sucks as a terminal. Yes, this needed its own section. The switches are placed halfway to another stop, and it's a tight curve out of Coney Island itself. Same for the queue. Expect delays and trains backing up. At the very least, Coney Island makes up for its poor functionality by, well, looking good. With a grand roof and a large entrance on Surf Avenue, paying homage to the BMT. One of Queens' main subway lines, QBL, is a decent part of the F route due to the Express. The Express is a blessing and a curse, with the F skipping 10 stations and 8 to 9 minutes of local stations, but it's heavily overcrowded as a result. But, well, let's be real, the E is the better QBO Express anyway. Still, I've had insane speeds while taking the F. Granted, this was during the weekend, but that F train was hauling ass, if that's the right term, rocketing from Roosevelt to Queensbridge. It sounded like the 160 was tearing itself to shreds running at that speed. Although, honestly, it probably was tearing itself apart, given Jamaica Yard's habit of running its trains into the ground. And you know what? I was right. It turns out CBTC was destroying train wheels by speeding trains through curbs. What the hell is that sound? Oh, okay. I get it. To start, holy shit, the MTA actually did it and swapped the F and M. In short, these merges had two parts. The F merging / diverging from the 63rd Street tunnel tracks up 36th Street, and the M merging / diverging from the 53rd Street tunnel tracks around Queens Plaza. With the E's high frequencies, there would often be a merging conflict with both the M and F. The M via 53rd also caused overcrowding on the E along the crosstown route, since, obviously, the Express was preferred over the local. Swapping the F and M, and bringing the F back to 53rd, eliminated two QBO Express conflicts in Queens. Plus, it has greatly alleviated the overcrowding on the E through 53rd. The M still has to merge with the R onto the local, of course, but it no longer disrupts the highly frequent E. Of course, the trade-off is a loss of QBO Express on 63rd, but that's a blessing in disguise with much less crowded trains. However, it does seem like 63rd Street routers have been shortchanged here. M train frequencies are obviously lower than F frequencies, and the loss of 2 cars of capacity is drastic. The net benefit of the swap is still there, but we'll have to see if 63rd service is just having growing pains or if it needs a fix. Maybe we need some extra rush hour 10-car M trains, based out of Jamaica Yard and terminating early at 2nd Avenue on the F. I think I'll call it the V train. Okay, jokes aside, decal. What? I don't know, I'm just hitting my quota for mentioning it in every single video, since this is the finale anyway. Obligatory northbound is fine, southbound decal is a shit show. The 6th Avenue line is arguably a masterclass in I&D engineering, surprisingly starting in York Street, Brooklyn. First, you have the Christie Street connection with its wide array of grades, and then the line has to work around the path up ahead. Keep in mind the whole line was also being built under the then existing 6th Avenue L. Lastly, an impressive flying junction after Rockefeller Center sends the 6th Avenue line in 3 separate directions: north via 63rd Street, east via 53rd Street, and west via Central Park West. You know someone's done a hell of an engineering job if the track map's confusing. Yeah, this is an F-train video. Anyway, about the F, it's packed full in both directions during rush hour. In one direction, you have the usual jam-packed QBO Express train, and on the other, the jam-packed Brooklyn gentrifiers. The disparity between the passenger volume on 6th Avenue Local and Express is crazy. You've got comfortable standing room on the B on one side, and a sardine can on the F on the other side of the platform. Not much to say here. It heads south through the second most gentrified area in Brooklyn, so there's actually good ridership here. Keep that in mind. Also, we've got merged with the G. Oh yeah, and Upper Culver has the only significant stretch of elevated track the I&D ever built, the Gowanus Viaduct. Of course, since this was the I&D we're talking about, it's a 4-track elevated structure with a former 5th layup track. Although, it seems like 3 would have been fine since Culver Express has run into peak directions since its inception. Plus, Culver Express kind of skips all of Upper Culver's ridership. If we look at the 2024 ridership numbers, not including the transfer hub J Street, the full Culver Express skips nearly 12 million riders yearly, while only serving 4.8 million. So it seems like the F Express won't be the solution. You know what? Forget the Express. Get ready for some idiocy. Moronic proposal out of the way first, and quick disclaimer, this obviously isn't serious. Ready? The F doesn't need to go to Coney Island. Have the G do it. Lower Culver is dead weight. 20 extra minutes on the F's route, and not a single station along that stretch has more yearly ridership than Beverly Road on the Q, which is less than a full train from the previous station. Hell, 3 entire BMT Culver stations have lower yearly ridership than the single-track Franklin Shuttle only station at Park Place. Seriously? I swear, if the MTA rebuilt the Dean Street station on the Franklin Shuttle, it would still have higher yearly ridership than Bay Parkway on Lower Culver because it's not in the middle of a fucking graveyard. Yes, I'm not joking or exaggerating either. Have a look on Google Maps satellite. Half of Bay Parkway is over a literal graveyard, and all exits lead into it. The textbook definition of bump nowhere. The 2024 ridership of this entire 11 station, about 4.5 mile line is only 5.8 million for 2024. Yes, for the whole line. For reference, that's less than 33rd Street on the 6th, at 6.166 million for 2024. Granted, it's a Lexington local station, but we're literally comparing singular stations to an entire section of a line here. And of course, it doesn't even compare to the rest of the 7 division. From least to greatest, the 2024 ridership of the BMT 7 division, excluding Coney Island. Sea Beach at 11.79 million, West End at 12.86 million, and Brighton blowing everyone out of the water with 27.23 million. Kings Highway alone on Brighton had a 2024 ridership of 4.22 million. And You know what, I even grabbed the 2019 pre-pandemic numbers to really hammer in this point. The 2019 ridership of Lower Cobra, without Coney Island, totals out to 8.5 million, which is still behind every other Southern Division line today. However, comparing BMT Cobra to other lines is one thing, but what about Upper Cobra / the IND portion of the Cobra line? Well, excluding J Street as it's a major transfer hub, and York Street as it's part of the 6th Avenue line, 2024 ridership comes out to 16.8 million, damn near triple Lower / BMT Cobra. Granted, it is the gentrified portion of the line where people actually live, but you get my point. 12 stations of dead weight to Coney Island. I guess this rant does beg the question, why is ridership so bad along Lower Cobra anyways? Well, if you look on Google Maps, the area under the L along McDonald Avenue isn't exactly booming. To get into why, we'll have to go back a century to the era of the BMT. To keep it short, the BMT Cobra line was built over the South Brooklyn Railroad, which became a full freight line in the 50s. Freight lines and rapid transit don't mix. In fact, they're pretty much the opposite of each other. Even though surface freight operations ended many decades ago, it seems like the area's ridership still remains low. Maybe people just don't want to take the F? I don't blame them. This is easily the most ass section of the F route by far. Unrelated, but Brighton just can't stop winning because of how dog shit the rest of the Southern Division is. It pays to have the best Broadway line, and the B. And, well, that's the whole rant. Be careful of the power of numbers and data. The last nail in the coffin for the F is the delays. The F gets so many delays, this section on delays has been delayed to the end of the video. Of course, there used to be built-in delays with the merges near Queens Plaza, but QBO in general seems to be one of the most delayed trunk lines. More often than not, when you check MTA.info for delays, it's a QBL line or the F itself. The F has held the title of most delayed line in 2023, with a 70% on-time performance to snatch the crown. In 2024, the F ended up in the top 2, despite performing worse at 69%. This was only due to the B somehow having a 64.46% on-time performance. 2025 looks to be much of the same, with the F going up to 3rd. Unfortunately, the B being the worst 2 years in a row now with a dismal 71.57% terminal on-time performance. Next is the 2 surprisingly, at 72.33%, and then is the F at 73.38%. Seems like a month of the swamp hasn't really done much for the data, with only the 6 having more total delays in 2025. This really doesn't help the F's reputation for, well, downright schizo wait times. The F is reputed to sometimes bunch together like it's a bus route, with 2 to 3 F trains running close together, and then a 30-minute wait somewhere in between. This seems natural for buses given traffic, but the F is a train. They run out of train crew or something? They say in 2021. As for ending notes, I have nothing more to say. The rest of the subway lines I was considering are on the screen. Hope you enjoyed the series, and maybe one day I'll stop being a Division 1 hater. Only one more major day in my script to air out, and then we're done.